Morning, everyone. We have the Wildrose Jobs Action Plan being announced this morning. We'll have some brief remarks from Paul Collins of Collins Industries, and then an overview of the Jobs Action Plan. So with that, Paul, happy to have you up here.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us here at Collins Steel today. I started this business some 32 years ago, and it's grown quite a bit. I never imagined it would get to this size in 1984, but it was always our goal. And our story is not an uncommon one here in Alberta. Unfortunately, due to the economic downturn, it's much more difficult to duplicate what I did today. So I'm proud to have Wildrose leader Brian Jean here with us this morning, and he's going to unveil the job action plan that the Wildrose have come up with. As a business owner, I know how important it is to have a plan and to stick with it. So I believe this plan is going to get us back on the right track, and I'm honored to host Brian along with Prasad Panda, Grant Hunter today. So thank you for being here in my business, and with that, I will hand it over to Brian and start our official program. Lisa wasn't here. No, let's go.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Paul, for that warm introduction. It's certainly a pleasure to be here today and have a tour of your facilities, a true example of what hard work and ingenuity can do in Alberta, and a true success story. Thank you for joining us all here today for an unveiling of the Wildrose Jobs Action Plan for Albertans. All Albertans are acutely feeling the effects of our economic downturn. According to the Conference Board of Canada, Albertans' views on current finances and future job prospects hit an all-time low in 2011, and 2016 is even worse than that. Albertans are worried, they're anxious, they're frustrated, and they want solutions. Collins Steel, where we are making our announcement today, is an Alberta success story. The business was started in 1984, as Paul has said, through a lot of hard work and tenacity, and today has grown to having over a 51,000 square foot facility with the production capacity of 1,000 tons per month. 1,000 tons per month is no small feat, and it's a great accomplishment, Paul. Collins has been able to weather the economic downturn and not having to resort to laying off any workers. However, I understand all overtime has been cut just recently, and they're down to regular work week hours. The same cannot be said, however, about many other companies across our province that have had to make very difficult decisions to stay afloat. As a result, over 80,000 Albertans are out of work since the NDP were elected in May. These job losses are not contained to any one sector, however. Significant job losses have actually rippled right across our entire province and all job sectors. While no government can control the price of oil, the NDP government certainly has the ability to control conditions for job growth and investment in our province. We have seen business and personal taxes increase, an unnecessary royalty review that actually sent investment everywhere else except for Alberta, and a $3 billion carbon tax that is nothing more than a grab and that will raise the price on everything in Alberta to everybody in Alberta. Today, Alberta now has the highest business taxes in Western Canada. Instead of these harmful policies, what we need are solutions. Solutions to once again make Alberta a leader in Canada and the world. Solutions that reverse the damage that has been done to date by the NDP government. Wildrose wants to help. We want to show Albertans that, unlike the NDP, we haven't forgotten how strong and how resilient the people of Alberta are. We understand that fundamentally, Albertans are not looking for a handout. All they need is a hand up. Today, we are outlining 12 common sense recommendations that offer clear solutions to steer our economy back on the right track. Our recommendations are based on three core principles. The first, restoring the Alberta advantage. Secondly, getting Albertans back to work. And third, providing stability for our energy sector. We know that no one can wave a magic wand and have oil back at $100 a barrel. What we can do, however, is put forward thoughtful policy that, if implemented, would encourage investment-based decisions on economics instead of ideology, and most important, get Albertans working again. My colleagues, Leela Aheer, Prasad Panda, and Grant Hunter, our Energy Shadow Minister, Economic Diversification Shadow Minister, and Jobs Shadow Minister, are with me here today. They will be outlining some of the key recommendations found in this report. I'd like to close by saying this. As a proud Albertan, I have actually lived through a number of ups and downs in our economy, boom and bust cycles before. Most of us have. But when I think about the tens of thousands of families who are right now trying to figure out how to make their mortgage payment, pay for upcoming soccer or ballet registration, and keep food on the table, all while looking for a job, I want to give them solutions. Wild Rose wants to give them solutions, and we want to give them hope. It's my sincere hope today that the NDP government accepts the spirit of these recommendations as to how they are made and is prepared to work together to get our province back on track and adopts them for the betterment of all Albertans. With that, thank you again to Paul, the Collins family, and of course Collins Steel for hosting us today. And I will hand it over to my colleagues, firstly Prasad Panda, and then Grant to give an overview of the recommendations, and then to close up Leela Aheer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Collins Steel, for hosting us here today. So the principles established in 1990s led to one of the most prosperous decades in Alberta's history. Our report lays out some easy and affordable recommendations which will instill the type of confidence back in our economy. The fact is, Alberta now has the highest business taxes in Western Canada now. For almost 150,000 small businesses in Alberta, confidence is at an all-time low. To reverse the trend, we are proposing an immediate 1-point tax cut for small businesses to be funded by the cancellation of NDP's widely criticized job subsidy program. In order to free up our job creators, we would also reduce red tape by 20% by 2019 and new one-for-one legislation on red tape. Currently, our Workers' Compensation Board is running a surplus of 130% above their liabilities. These are funds that are skimmed immediately from employers. To stimulate growth, we believe the government should reduce premiums by 50% for the first 100 employees in each of the businesses and should eliminate premiums for new hires until surplus assets are down to 114% of their liabilities. This would give businesses the tool to rebuild and for our economy to continue diversifying. Finally, we know the NDP's $3 billion economy-wide carbon tax is causing tremendous uncertainty across the economy while we live under $30 oil. We are suggesting we cancel this initiative until a proper economic impact analysis is completed. Now I'll hand it over to my colleague Grant.
It's a pleasure to be here today and to be involved in this Wild Rose Job Action Plan. The 12 solutions contained in the Wild Rose Job Action Plan are a path forward for Albertans. This plan is a common sense and straightforward approach. I will briefly go over our suggestions on how to get Albertans back to work again. First, let's invest in funding for our knowledge infrastructure. The NDP government is going to spend more than double BC's capital plan. There is no excuse for not making this kind of investment in Alberta's knowledge infrastructure. Further to that, let's maximize the use of existing knowledge infrastructure. Federal funds are available for skilled training opportunities for those out of work. but the government should consider prioritizing existing operating dollars to supplement those initiatives, especially for blue-collar workers and other underemployed Albertans not meeting federal criteria, at least until the economy recovers. Let's also increase the use of apprentices on government projects. If you ask the skilled trades people around here, they will tell you the value of that kind of experience. The government should sit down with the construction industry and determine the best way to adjust the tendering process to fairly incentivize the use of apprentices on provincial builds. Without opportunities here in Alberta, apprentices will waste their training, or other provinces will reap the benefits of their productivity. Second, Alberta is the only province that has failed to properly tap into programs to help build our province and give workers opportunities. Let's begin properly using programs like the Canada Jobs Grant and the Labour Market Development Agreement to get Albertans working again. Lastly, let's empower local economic development organizations and governments to spur job creation in their communities. The municipal level governments and local organizations are closest to the ground and have the best sense of what the local strengths and opportunities are. I sincerely hope that the NDP government is willing to adopt and implement these recommendations so that Albertans can achieve gainful employment again. Thank you, and I'd like to turn the time over to Leela here, my friend and colleague, to finish off our presentation.
Thank you, Grant, and thank you, Paul, and to all of you for being here. Our final key principle is to provide stability for our energy sector. It is no secret that proposed changes to Alberta's electricity grid poses serious risks to rising power bills and jobs lost. The impact of these decisions need to be more closely studied and analyzed before they are fully implemented. The Wild Rose believes the government should work with the energy industry to find effective short-term stimulus measures to promote job retention, job growth, and if we lose too much infrastructure and know-how to other jurisdictions in the short term, we will not be able to capitalize on our resource potential with the next upswing, and we will find ourselves permanently falling behind our competitors. And of course, the Wild Rose would proudly fight for pipelines. The government needs to be aggressive and lobby the Trudeau government to abandon the proposed tanker ban on the BC North Coast and insist that they and the provincial leaders stop adding red tape and delays to our world-class pipeline regulatory process. Pipelines are the best shovel-ready infrastructure projects ready in Canada. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. I'd just like to say again thank you to Paul Collins and Collins Steel for allowing us to use the facility and for their support on this Jobs Action program for Albertans. There has been no formal analysis done, but what we have done is looked at a dozen practical solutions that won't cost much money and that will get Albertans working again, and this is just an example of those particular opportunities that the NDP government is ignoring. These are simple, for the most part, examples of ways that we can do so without very much cost at all, which means that any benefit, any jobs created will actually be an addition and a plus for the economy. Beg your pardon? Are you talking point number 12? 11? As you can see, sorry. We're talking generally on the no government dollars on that. We believe that there are some short-term solutions and some stimulus measures that can be brought about with the federal government cooperating as well. But according to the Royalty Review, Alberta's competitive advantage is actually slipping, and we lose far too much infrastructure and know-how to other jurisdictions just simply because our cost structures are higher, and the Alberta government is not working properly with the federal government to do that. But you know, you will also see here, and you have seen it in the news this morning in relation to the considerable spin-offs in our communities from energy activity, and Alberta needs to ensure that these incentives keep marginal wells active, and there are some opportunities there in relation to marginal wells, and I'd be happy to turn that over if you want more details after this. If you've had an opportunity to see that, it's recommendation 11 is laid out in there. But none of these proposals that we're making are requiring very much by way of government stimulus or government funding, because obviously we feel there's many opportunities within the dozen plans, the dozen job action plans that we have put forward to make aggressive and real change for Albertans without having to invest any further taxpayer money. Well, if you took an average company with about 50,000 employees, and it depends, of course, on the type of company that it is, it's about $6,000 per year for a service sector. Obviously much more expensive for manufacturing, and that's why they get rebates back. But on new employees, the key is if it's $1 per employee, they will be encouraged to hire new employees, and we feel that there's about a 3.5 year worth of surplus funds that obviously are available to lower the tax burden on small businesses, and especially to encourage them to hire new ones. So it depends on the type of business, it depends on what they're doing, but all businesses will receive the same treatment. We're not picking winners and losers. We feel there's a true advantage to all businesses by spreading this around to all the businesses right across Alberta, and they will feel that tax burden lifted. But as far as particular businesses, it depends on whether it's manufacturing or not, but all will see the same amount of savings as far as percentage. Well, what we're talking about is on action plan number 1, you'll see lower the small business tax. As you are aware, we have the highest small business tax in Western Canada now. That's obviously going to attract businesses to other places such as British Columbia and Saskatchewan in particular that have very similar areas as we do as far as the economy goes, especially with natural resources. And we feel that if we got down to 2%, this would make us even with Saskatchewan, which would put us on the same playing field, especially for oil and gas sector, and puts us just below British Columbia, leaves us a tremendous opportunity. But big business, we're not proposing any changes with this plan with corporate taxes because we're looking at 12. Now, there's many other options available, and I appreciate that question. There's many other options available, and we did have an extensive look at other options, but the truth is we haven't seen any real plan of any substance from the NDP government, and we thought the best thing we could do is try to get out a dozen very practical, common sense solutions that the government could work on now to implement, and we're hoping that they see the spirit of this done in a collegial manner, the best interest of Albertans, and we're hoping they will adopt these 12 and move forward with them. And if there's other ones that you would suggest, we'd be happy to propose those to the NDP because frankly we feel they're not listening to industry, corporations, or Albertans generally, and we would like to see that happen. So if you have any ideas, we'd be happy to pass that by. Well, we're not talking about that today. We've talked about that a lot in the past, and we know that that's going to hurt the economy. But we were very happy to see that the NDP did listen to us and did slow down their ideological agenda on raising the minimum wage so quickly, and they have, implemented on a more slower path than what they originally anticipated to do. And we think that was a good move, and we're glad they did that. Well, the first thing is, I think it's no secret that we're overregulated and Canada has far too many regulations. So a trade-off, one for one, if we bring in a new regulation, get rid of an old one, we think that's a very good law to pass and that should be immediately brought in. But there has been many red tape commissions across Canada done before. Stephen Harper did one as Prime Minister, I think back in 2006, 2008. And they reduced by, their goal was 20% reduction, and I think that's a reasonable goal, and they did actually, I understand from some of the reports that I read, they were successful in some of those red tape reductions, and we would like to see that implemented here in Alberta because we've seen just over the last 20, 25 years a tremendous increase in regulations and the regulatory burden to businesses especially, and we know all the empirical evidence clearly indicates that if you remove the red tape around business startups and businesses generally on a reporting basis, that you have more people interested in opening business and businesses generally, and that means more jobs for Albertans, and that's what it's all about. I think any time that a government, especially a left-leaning government, picks winners and losers, the people of Alberta are going to, and the taxpayers are going to be the losers. I don't think that picking winners and losers is good for anybody, and I frankly think the government should stay away from that. We've seen boondoggles after boondoggles from governments that frankly cost taxpayers, whether it be in Ottawa, in Ontario generally, or right across the country, just not work out. And therefore, anything that picks winners and losers or has government officials or people picked by government officials to pick the winners and losers, it's not a good thing for Canada. It's picking that we believe that apprentices should be picked, but we're not picking particular apprenticeships or particular companies. What we're suggesting is companies that encourage apprentices, because as you know, many of the apprentices that are in Alberta and have been up to this economic downturn are sitting at home collecting unemployment insurance right now and can't get the hours in order to complete their trade. We believe that it's the government's obligation to provide that opportunity to all apprentices in Alberta and to move them forward so they can finish their trade and then get a good quality, high-paying job and provide for their family. Well, I don't think right now that diversifying the economy is the number one job. I think the number one job of government is to keep Albertans working. I would suggest that in this particular case, we're picking winners being, as was mentioned, apprenticeships. We're picking winners as in people that are unemployed and want to go back to school and get a better job and get better education. If you look at some of our novel ideas, for instance, one particular is the knowledge-based infrastructure, and fully utilizing that. Oftentimes, classrooms are only a few hours or 8 hours per day, and we believe there's a tremendous amount of infrastructure that we currently have already paid for that are available to educate, upgrade skills, and get people working again, and that's a big advantage. And when you think about it, it's a very reasonable proposal. We're paying those costs anyways. They're fixed costs for the most part, and to finesse that a bit will mean more opportunities for people to go back to school and have those classes open. Most people recognize that in an economic downturn, what you need to do is get people re-educated that are unemployed and get them back into the workforce as soon as possible, and education does that.